Hey, gang. Oh, wow. It's raining. And it must be a Monday, even though it's Wednesday. Today, it's time for Translating Trump. Good morning, everybody. Philip Blackett's backstage. I just saw him. I know he's there. We haven't talked yet because I'm about to log in. I'm setting everything up 10 minutes before going live. My dog throws up. And I got to try to get him outside. I got to try to clean up that awful smelling puke. And so he's so well trained. He's such a good dog. He ran to the door. He knows he's going to be sick. He has a GI issue that sometimes happens, and this sometimes happens. And yeah, he can't help it. And I got to get rid of that light in our background. It's off the. I'm going to be like on the side today or something. It's ricocheting off the microwave, which is annoyed the hell out of Matt Deemer last Friday. Translating Trump. We're on 99.1 WDJY and America One Radio and the rest of the Mastiff Media. Lots of news for that. We'll share with actually, some of this is actually going to affect Philip and Translating Trump every Wednesday. So let's bring him out and we'll talk about what's happening in the MAGA world. And are you crying, laughing? What does that look?
It was an attempted cry, but I'll go for laughter depending on the news.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, lots of. I still need to. You're actually on my refrigerator. I am. You are. In lieu of pizza last week.
Oh, okay.
You asked for me to make a purchase at buyblackett.com, which
yes, please.
And I keep telling you, yeah, we'll do that today. I will do that today before I leave sometime mid-afternoon to go to the Alan Parsons Project concert tonight down in Clearwater. And I have to leave a little earlier now because I have to be there instead of showtime at 7. I've got like almost front row seats. So I don't care who's there before me. I know where my seat is. and I'm going to be there.
It's not like you're trying to get a seat on the New York City subway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Preferably with somebody that's friendly.
But I cannot find my tickets. I had them. I flagged them in my inbox.
Uh-oh.
And now I can't find them. And they're PDF tickets, which are scannable. I know I didn't send them to anybody because I don't have anybody. I got 3 tickets and I have nobody going with me yet. I put it on Facebook. I said, hey, where are my classic rock buddies? Alan Parsons tonight in Clearwater. I did that like last night, 7 p.m. in Clearwater. I did it at like 10:30, 11 o'clock last night. But yeah, Matrix threw up. And it wasn't just like, a hack and a little bit of spit. It was dinner from last night.
Do you need to take him to the vet or something?
No, he's got this GI issue that he's got mega esophagus. I don't think there's anything that's a blockage. But if he doesn't get out, which he did, but I think I'm going to have to just switch their schedule.
Okay.
I made a bunch of extra food last night to put in the freezer for when I go home to Pennsylvania for Christmas.
Okay.
And it took a little while. But they had...
Are you visiting your friend in Pennsylvania?
Family. What
friends? Maybe a persistent friend?
No. Oh yeah. It's a very persistent friend. It's my mom. Very persistent. And I am actually meeting a friend I was talking with today, a fellow member of the law enforcement community. Trooper Ray is a buddy of mine from high school, is a Pennsylvania state trooper. And we talked about schedules and such. I'm there from Saturday, the 21st. My flight out is early, the 26th. I'm available from the 21st to the 24th. and definitely wanting to get back together and chat with him
Okay.
again. But and I know my other brother who doesn't live in town anymore or in the state anymore also has a friend from high school, a family friend, that he's getting together with for like the day, like a long day kind of thing. So I'll probably try to schedule this around that same time, so mom's not too peeved that we're going at different times. So, some good news since you and I last talked.
Okay.
K Shop in Las Vegas, KSHP, has agreed to a proposal we gave for our new contract with them for the next 3 months, starting the Friday after Christmas.
Okay.
Although they have said they are going to continue to just air us between now, because their contract's actually up, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But they said they're just going to continue to air us between now and then. I don't know if they're going to keep us going live or what. But then starting on, I guess, New Year's Day,
Mm-hmm.
because it starts on
Like
that Friday.
12:01.
No, actually, it starts on the contract actually starts on the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, though. Yeah, there were as I think you know, there were some snags with getting them set up and getting us on the ball rolling with
Mm-hmm.
KSHP. It's Las Vegas, it's Nevada, a swing state.
Viva
Wanted
Las
to
Vegas.
be really active there by the election.
Okay.
Even though it was like 2 weeks before the election. It gave us like 2 shows. Technical issues, logistical issues, this, that, and the other thing got us screwed up, and it didn't happen really well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're throwing a couple shows in our way on them to kind of smooth things over and show that they're serious about having us on. Format, political and such, is very much like a show that I was a guest on a couple months ago, right after the Trump assassination,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Pushing the Limits. He goes by PTL. Now, does that strike a memory with you at all?
PTL. I was about to say pardon the, but then it's usually pardon the interruption, PTI, but not PTL.
Yeah.
But Patel?
No, you don't remember Jim and Tammy Faye Baker?
No.
You don't remember the PTL Club?
No. Enlighten
Praise
me.
the Lord.
Oh.
Was what that stands for. And I know you're a person of pretty deep faith.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you would have remembered that one.
I've never said PTL before. I just say it out loud, like the whole thing.
Yeah, sure. But this was a
hashtag
TV,
PTL.
this was a TV show in the 80s and maybe the early 90s.
Like
Definitely
on
in the
TBN or something?
One of those
State Star or
one of those UHF frequency TV channels. You know what I mean? It's the not in the downtown of the city of whatever market you're in, but the one that's in the outskirts.
Mm-hmm.
But they were nationally syndicated show and made millions.
It's probably nice to be nationally syndicated.
As well, we're going to talk about that. But
you just teasing me, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of teasing, he hooks up. Jim Baker hooks up with a prostitute.
Okay.
And gets busted.
Not in a good way.
And becomes the topic of the late, great Sam Kinison. And about how he wants to spread the gospel for the Lord in every country in the world, which they were in.
Mm-hmm.
They literally had broadcasts in every country in the world.
That's nice.
And he says, don't save one in case we screw up.
Nobody.
We got a place to go. And of course, he didn't say screw up. He worded it rather differently. But yeah, and Tammy Faye Baker, his wife, was always very well known for having lots of makeup in big, flashy black eyelashes. Like she wore the fake black glue-on eyelashes before all the black girls made it cool. I mean, they were often confused with spiders on her eyes. And her famous cameo was on the Drew Carey show. Do you remember that show? Drew Carey, the stand-up comedian. Remember Mimi?
So I remember the show. I've never actually watched the full episode, though. I knew he had a show.
So there were two other major characters. Well, actually, no, a bunch. There's two others that I'm thinking of. One is Craig Ferguson, the stand-up comedian, Scottish stand-up comedian, had the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. He played Drew Carey's mean boss.
Okay.
In a department store. And then I forget what his name is, but one of the guys from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
One of my favorite shows all time.
The tall, blonde-haired guy.
I forgot his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Was one of Drew Carey's buddies on the show.
Okay.
And then there's a dark-haired guy. I think one of the other things he was well known for was a more recent remake, probably in a movie. I think it was a movie from the TV show The Beverly Hillbillies. He played Jethro.
Okay.
So kind of well-built, dark-haired guy. That was also one of his buddies.
Okay.
But then I forget what her last name is. It's Eileen something. Played this vicious co-worker of his named Mimi. Heavyset girl, big bushy hair, lots of makeup. And, I just forgot. I got to go live on Instagram. Lots of makeup to include the eyelashes that I just described to you. And so Tammy Faye Baker's famous cameo appearance was on the Drew Carey show as Mimi's mom. And yeah, it was kind of like, I think she kind of talked about her mom on and off throughout the series, kind of like Vera to Norm Peterson on Cheers.
Okay.
You always kind of wondered who Vera really was because he's always talking about it, but you never saw her in the entire series of Cheers. They never brought anybody on. And it was always going to be speculation. Like it was going to be, I forget who, but it was going to, because George Wendt is a pretty big guy and not muscularly. He is what you would expect to see sitting at the end of a bar. And so there was all the speculation that his wife was hot because he's always talking badly about her. As if he's trying to keep everybody else away. And there was just they never did anything else with it. They just, like I'm teasing you about national news. They just kept teasing.
This is clearly your version of Trump's weed that I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah. I got a concept of a plan.
I'm in for the ride. I'm waiting for the punchline here. I'm with you. I'm going with it.
But they're teasing Mimi's mom's character, and then finally she's visiting, and it's Tammy Faye Baker. And the in-studio audience just cracks up laughing and they loved it, and it was just such a perfect fit
Yeah.
because there's this Eileen actress who doesn't look like that in real life,
Okay.
but does for her character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the makeup and the eyelashes and everything. And then there's a person in real life who looks like that all the time playing her mom.
Yeah.
Just very well done. I think that part of the comedic genius that is Drew Carey. But they had PTL, a TV show, Faith, you know, on TV, and they were kind of fiery, more like the evangelist, and I think they were actually from that denomination,
Mm-hmm.
evangelical, and also caught a lot of grief from the left,
Mm-hmm.
of course, for being so far right. And then he goes and cheats on his wife with a prostitute.
Yeah.
So my buddy Brian Shapiro, who's also on K-Shop,
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask him. He wants to have me on before or sometime right around we start with a bigger contract with K-Shop, and he wants to have me on. And I want to ask him instead of him asking me if that was the crux of his name pushing the limits and using the abbreviation PTL
Mm-hmm.
as a goof on Jim and Tammy Faye Baker.
Mm.
Like, he doesn't care what a show is called. Pushing the Limits just works. He gets to use PTL.
Right.
And but yeah, he's political. He's definitely left leaning. He's been able to agree with some certain things from folks of the MAGA world, usually when they are scratching their head about whatever Trump did that week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And what impresses me about him is that regardless of how much he disagrees with somebody, he still always calls them sir. Because he doesn't really get many women calling in. But it's always, you know, I'm sorry, sir. I just don't agree. You know, it's very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
He's very explosive, but he doesn't call him an a-hole or anything like that. You know, which you know he wants to. And he does come across with the anger porn like David Beckmeyer talks about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of something, a direction I don't know that I want to, because I've been very honest throughout my just over a year-long radio career.
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of the Howard Stern of politics.
Mm-hmm.
And on some days with the other guys, like with you or with any of them, Jane on Monday, Brian and Blake and Matt on Friday. Not so much. Yes, but no. Thursdays, Psycho and the Psychic. Mars does not do politics.
Right.
So
Clearly.
not Howard Stern of politics, but she takes a very big lead on that show. So I'm also kind of often a Robin Quivers. I'm an agitator from the sidelines, which she is excellent at.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I got into this as the Up the Middle podcast almost 2 years ago.
You know, the funny thing is, whenever you say up the middle, I think of a number of things. But the thing that I think could be included here too, just something to think about, up the middle has like a football analogy to it as well.
It's actually in baseball too.
So there's like a sports thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking bowling as well, if they ever say that up the middle, because you're trying to get a strike, so you should bowl
I don't know
the
that
middle.
That's there. Run up the middle
Yeah.
is something in football. A line drive up the middle, right back at the pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
is a phrase used up the middle. when I Googled that phrase for images,
Yep.
the first image that came back
Yep.
was like this witch's claw of a hand
Would never thought that.
with red fingernails flipping you off.
This is Hocus
And
Pocus 2 or something.
I just busted up laughing. That was literally the first image to come back.
Now that I think about it, that makes sense. I probably wouldn't want to do a witch's hand on that one, but I mean, get it.
I guess it was a witch's hand. It was like this humanoid hand,
Mm-hmm.
4 fingers and a thumb,
Mm-hmm.
old and bony looking, like what would be on a witch.
Yeah.
But like blood red fingernails that were also more like claws than they were fingernails.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
And it was flipping you off.
It was giving you the salute.
Yeah. But yeah, so I am contemplating, because I want to educate, and because Yerg's radio is about a positive message more than it is an angry one. I mean, we're honest, and if there's tough love needed,
impassionate,
we're the first ones to, and passionate, and if there's tough love needed, we can be the first ones to engage. But why did that not happen? I thought I was on chatter here. Yeah, here we are. Okay. But not necessarily, it, and that's why the other, and I actually said this a couple of weeks ago, the other persona that I would be honored to be associated with is Mr. Rogers.
Dearly missed right now. Yep.
Because look at what he really did for society by doing what he did to educate children.
And the funny thing is, why hasn't somebody revamped that? Like, I know they do one, like an animated version that my kids watch, or at least they did watch when they were younger. But there's a part of me that says, you know what? Why doesn't somebody just take that and just say, hey, we're going to introduce Mr. Rogers in 2025 and see what kind of hell we catch for this? See if Mr. Rogers was a cancel culture kind of guy character, if he came in 2025 versus his original timing.
I think they did.
They did? I saw like the document or the movie. I think Tom Hanks or somebody was doing it, but
yes,
an actual show.
I think they did. Not it wasn't Mr. Rogers 2, but a guy that went to my high school. Steve. What was his last name? He was a couple years behind me in high school. Was the original Steve, the original co-host with Blue on Blue's Clues.
Oh, okay.
He went to my high school. And he ditched that role after a couple of years because he wanted to be able to do other things and didn't want to be typecast in that type of role.
Okay.
Dude, you're the modern day Mr. Rogers. Do you have any idea the potential longevity that you could have doing that? And when he got to a certain age and wanted to get out, because it was like he played the role of like a high school kid with a dog that spent all day at home, apparently never went to school, and doing all these things that, educate children. Kind of like Pee-wee's Playhouse and Mr. Rogers. And when he decided he wanted to leave, he They wrote him off as though he moved away to college.
Okay.
And he wasn't at home with Blue anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so they brought in, I forget what the second guy's name, guy that looks a lot like him.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wrote him into the show as Steve's brother, his younger brother, who you would have thought was going to be home all the time too, because apparently these kids are homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's off to college, was never in high school. But now all of a sudden there's a younger brother that's home to play with Blue and continue the show. Where it's at now, I have no idea. But yeah, so I'm thinking kind of like, and maybe a little bit of both, cause a little bit of a mystery, like which one am I really trying to be? When in all actuality, they're both very much me.
Just different facets.
Yeah. So, all right. We're back with K-Shop, or we're continuing with K-Shop. We're talking with Tan Talk here in Tampa. I've not heard from them all week, so I got to call them when we're done with the show and make sure she is aware that she has a proposal in her inbox. Apparently, she's not the best with email. The owner and manager of WTAN and WDCF, and so that's as much my fault, really, knowing that and having not followed up. But they also took pretty good care of us. I assume I probably owe them some money because we got paid up to a certain point, and our contract with them had expired as well. Yet they gave us a freebie last Friday when we were on for Pizza Friday. I don't know if you remember, I actually said it, when they popped up in the private chat and said 2 minutes. And I'm like, what's he doing here? He heard me say that. And I said, yeah, no, you're here. Welcome. Okay. I'm presuming I'm going to get a bill for that. But additionally, for those of you out there that think having a social media presence is a waste of time for your business or for your profession or for a club or social thing, whatever, I was discovered by somebody late Sunday night from, I think he's in Arizona, through, I got to find his name again. I suck with names. You'd think I would know this guy by now. He messaged me on Francis Battaglia from Media Airtime LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Messaged me on my Yergs, where we're broadcasting right now, my Instagram account. He found my email somewhere and emailed me. He used the contact page on yergs.com, all to say, hey, do you have, I don't, I guess he didn't really know what we did, if it was a podcast or radio show or both or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take what you do on a national level?
Okay.
And so I looked into him, saw what, his company, so his website, and looked into that. And I looked into him and his social media presence.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he used to own, he didn't say where. I actually got to ask him this, but was from a family in the radio business and used to own a 50,000 watt station in whatever major market. He doesn't say. He's from New York, so I'm guessing it's somewhere near there.
Mm-hmm.
And 50,000 watts is as big as it gets. That is literally as big as a radio station gets. So it was a major, major station. And now he started this company where he takes us, groups like us, shows like us, and helps them syndicate.
Okay.
And the best part is we say yes or no. and his pay comes out of our fee.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like we got to pay him up front or anything like that. It's part of the deal. And so, yeah, that's we starting in January. I mean, we're signed with him, and I just got the list of opportunities last night. There's nothing. There's only a few stations on his list that would be conducive to right now.
Okay.
So for us to go live in conjunction with these other openings, but he said, this stuff pops open all the time, and other people like us stop paying, and this is a pretty good time slot. Obviously, it's why I went with it. Worst case scenario, I alter it to something else where there's more openings. I don't know what I would do because DJY comes due in February. That's Atlanta. He's not a huge fan of that one. And I knew when I saw the price tag that they didn't have a big reach. I knew when I saw the footprint of the Atlanta area, they barely even really reach Atlanta. They're in Dallas, Georgia, which is in the Northwest.
Okay.
But when I put 99.1 FM on any of my social media, everybody else sees that we're a big deal. And so if all these other far right knuckleheads can put all kinds of clickbait, and left for that matter, to be fair.
Thank you.
Can put all kinds of clickbait on their YouTube thumbnails. And then the titles of whatever episode that they create in that moment. Oh, Trump's career is going to end today. Oh, I guess I have to watch this because we're finally getting rid of this guy. And then it's some ridiculous, not even close to ending anybody's career, except the knucklehead that put that on their thumbnail.
Yeah, I got you.
Or, Donald Trump is the greatest thing. Here he is again. And it's basically footage of him screwing up. And
I got you.
Yeah. I thought, well, I can put 99.1 FM Atlanta, which is how they brand themselves, knowing that the other Atlanta station that we're on, America One Radio, an internet station, has a wider reach because they're on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I presume DJY is too. But they actually market themselves to, they're a progressive station, so they market themselves to the left and develop listeners in Atlanta and beyond. So like, hey, I'll still be all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I now have an agent.
Oh, nice.
This Francis Battaglia.
Representation matters.
Yeah. And he's also helping to sell ad spots too, which is key. He doesn't get a percentage of that, which I think is crazy. But his percentage is beyond fair of the time that the stations pay. And he wants us to keep the profits of the ad spots so that we can roll that into additional stations, which is exactly what I've got a pension. I don't need to pay myself. For as much as that'll eventually happen, you, Blake, Matt, Jane, and Mars will be way ahead of me because you're also putting time in with a lot less to gain from it other than also being on the radio and getting a message out. So, I think we're all caught up, at least from like Mastiff Media perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Since you and I last talked, a major CEO was shot and killed. And now since you and I've talked, that shooter has been identified and arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Who fell at lunch yesterday. The Republican guy from the Senate, Mitch McConnell,
He fell
he fell at a GOP lunch, and
like off of his chair. Fell.
I'm guessing tripped on his Velcro sneakers and fell because it said medics attended to him, and I don't know if I didn't read far enough into it to know if he was taken to a hospital or not. But that and Trump's always got something for us. He never lets us down. His posse is on Capitol Hill negotiating and marketing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And now his future daughter-in-law is going to be the ambassador to Greece.
Really?
Yeah. DJ TJ's fiance. DJ TJ, Donald J. Trump Jr.
Oh, okay. I was like,
that's the Jimmy Kimmel name for him.
oh.
DJ TJ. And,
Okay.
what's her? It was the girl from Fox. What is her name?
Kimberly
Guilfoyle. Yeah.
Guilfoyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Gavin Newsom's ex-wife, right?
I don't know about that.
I think so. Yeah. Because that was the big thing. She went from Democrat to Republican.
Mm.
But I mean, yeah, just because she looks like a Greek woman doesn't mean that, she'd make a good Greek ambassador. But that wasn't a compliment, by the way.
I hear Greece is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice to visit.
What is it? Santorini is the place. And all the gays go to Mykonos. I'm like, oh my God, be original. just once in your life. All right. So what have you seen? I'm going to throw it on you a little bit today because obviously I've spent past half of my morning cleaning up noodles and turkey meat and other food that was never digested for more than 12 hours. So what do you think is confusing in the Trump world that maybe we need a little bit of translation on?
It's actually a good question. Because if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I haven't been watching much of Fox News lately compared to the past 10 months or so leading up to the election. So it seems like there's nothing pressing that's hitting my phone. It's like, oh my gosh, we got to talk about this. It just seems like, hey, he's settled on his cabinet. We'll just see how things go. Some people may get in, some people may not. He may pick some other people. This Greece pick, of course, is another one. Greece is nice. I'm sure that's nice to go to Greece to ambassador yourself there. Nice cush job, maybe. But I don't know much about Kimberly, so I can't really say much on that.
I had interactions with both of them when I was still at WFO.
Okay.
Up till December of 2018. Clearly we either differ or just not totally on the same page with some political issues. They were nice to me and they're professional people. And she was nice. There was a major, we used to pick, nobody got driven onto the tarmac at Reagan Airport except at the, if it was a commercial flight, except at the end of the airport where the chartered flights were. Companies called like Signature Air, Millionaire, all the what are called flight-based operations or FBO, the chartered stuff. There, they would get driven onto with their Secret Service detail, driven onto the tarmac right to the plane. But if they were taking a commercial flight, which they sometimes did, we picked them up at the curb, walked them through the airport. We had airport police with us for those movements So we took them around security. If they had like a huge gaggle of staff, they had to be screened. But if it was just protectees, no.
Mm-hmm.
And we changed it. Instead of taking them through the public area, we took them right in the door, right to an elevator. Took them down all the way below ground, underneath whatever driveways we were crossing over, now crossing under, into the airport or into the secure side of the airport, actually through the baggage claim. And when this first took place, it was in part because Reagan Airport was about to do a multi-million-dollar, like almost like a couple $100 million worth of renovations, to include adding a terminal. And each individual terminal at that time had its own security checkpoint. So if you had a connection that was in another terminal, you either had to hope that your airline had a shuttle busing you from one to the other, which like American did, US Air did, if they were even in multiple terminals. Most of them weren't. But if you got one of those mixed itineraries because you found a bunch of cheap flights and pieced your trip together, you start on US Air to one city, and then you get on JetBlue from there to another city. You would have had to go out and come back in by going through security at that other terminal, which is a huge travel delay. Few other airports are like that. So they were moving the secure area out closer to the curb so that this one big walkway, a common area in the airport, was now in a secure area. And so we didn't go through any of that anymore because there's a lot of other construction and just opportunity for bad things to happen. And honestly, I thought we should have been using this underground, secure, very limited route in the first place. Because the only people down there are higher level airport people, bag handlers, and people that have been screened pretty heavy. So we're in the elevator, and they notice the huge change, and they say, what's going on? And I tell them about the construction, and this is better anyway because it's kind of out of the way. And they're just very polite and kind of grateful, because they always, Republicans especially, like to look presidential and important. Democrats want to press the flesh. But he got to talking about from there about I told him that it was already delayed and over budget. And she popped in and said, well, they should have had you do it, motioning to Junior, because he built whatever building in Chicago or remodeled it or built it, I forget, early, ahead of schedule, and under budget. And so well, maybe that maybe not been a bad idea. If your dad wasn't already with his tit in a ringer over the post office building that was a couple doors down from the White House, maybe it would be a little bit more tangible. But anyway, what you haven't been watching Fox.
I will say though, there is one story I was thinking about.
Where are you getting your information if you don't have Fox blaring throughout every room in the house?
Well, you have to think about this, Ross. Like visual. Like once the election was done, like that was like my birthday wish and my Christmas wish, right? What happened in the election to the tune of 312. That, like, everything else this year could be, I'm good. So at that point, I'm not necessarily watching my normal routine of like the 5 special report with Brett, Ingram Angle, Jesse Waters, Primetime, and Hannity. Now I've dropped the line that
You can go right down the whole list, huh?
I do. It literally is like what I was like listening and watching. I cut the line at gut feel because sometimes my wife doesn't take the
He
kindly
just
to
likes.
his humor. So like,
I never liked him on. I never liked him on Red Eye. We used to watch that. It was like the only thing that was still on TV that was remotely interesting
yeah,
over at midnight.
it's
I
kind of
think.
cringe.
I
Like,
think he started. Didn't he start on weekends with that show? Like
he
he wasn't
might
even
have.
weeknights. It was just like Saturday night.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he
So,
was the original Dan Bongino.
oh yeah, and they got Jimmy Fallon now,
Mm,
which is too similar to Jimmy Fallon for me. For
yeah,
I don't know if that's like a intentional pen name to give
of
somebody,
course.
but
Yeah, or
mm,
maybe not a pen name, but when Fox saw that, I'm like, oh hey, this works.
I
Like,
guess.
like Brian Shapiro and PTL.
Yeah. Well. Anyways, but yeah, after the election, it's just like, look, like I I got what I wanted. The regular news cycle, what things are happening, you're not as pressed to hear all the details and all the tidbits and pundits talk about things as you did before, because everything was so crucial leading up to November 5th. And now that November 5th has passed, it's like, all right, well, it's kind of like a normal, let's get back to normal life again. But with all that being said, I did try to think of one story that I am actually curious about and might be curious in your take on this one too, is for your standpoint.
Yeah.
I am curious to know what's going to happen with another in-law from the Trump family, but this one might be more related to us since we live in the Sunshine State.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Who is going to replace Marco Rubio, given that he gets confirmed for Secretary of State? And this one name is popping up, whether for that position to replace or something different. I think there's clearly a rising star on the right that I don't know. I'm kind of curious where this lands, where this plane lands on this one.
If I've got to deal with any of them, I don't know. Because obviously, Kimberly Guilfoyle has public experience coming Fox News.
Yep.
And I think you're talking about Eric's wife.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Laura Trump?
Yep.
Is now the head of the RNC.
Formerly, as in like used to, she no longer.
Did she leave that?
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm saying I'm very much curious where things go.
Oh, see, I didn't think. I wouldn't have thought that she would have left that.
So Michael Watley is staying. She's leaving.
Okay.
To be determined where she goes next.
All right. Well, I know. So you're down here too, actually. But here's what I've been hearing of the two likelihoods. DeSantis has said he's not going to name that position until January.
Yeah, why rush?
Which obviously is probably not making Daddy happy because he wants everything done right away on his schedule.
I see. Okay. I get that.
But also, there's, I think, another logistical reason why that's not happened.
Let's get into the house of cards, Ross. What's going on?
I think, and I've heard this before, I think Blake has said it as well, that DeSantis is eyeing himself to replace Rubio.
Why would you want to go from governor to senator? I mean, Rick Scott did it, but
yeah,
I guess I'm just trying to understand the trajectory. What's the plan here on that one?
I thought I looked into this. I did look into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that when a Florida governor terms out,
He has to. Yeah, he can't run again. So for governor, so yeah, he has to think about life after.
I thought it was only for one term, and then they can come back. And so, yeah, I mean, is that what is the deal with that?
I mean, to my knowledge, it sounds like this is his last term, and he's going to have to do something else afterwards once it finishes.
Well, here as I type this in to Google, can a Florida governor, I'm not even finished spelling governor, and the rest fills out, appoint himself as a senator? So that's one of the things people
somebody's are searching it. Yeah, of course.
Yep. Frequently. Served more than 2 terms. Can DeSantis run for Florida again in 2026? This, according to the Tallahassee Democrat. Governor DeSantis was not on the ballot on Tuesday. And I guess this is going back to November 6th. But his influence was felt. The 2 constitutional amendments he waged taxpayer-funded war against, one legalizing recreational marijuana, and the other guaranteeing abortion access. Oh, yeah, that's what the amendment was, the guarantee. Okay. Were both defeated. One of the 2 state attorneys the government removed from office was defeated by a candidate he endorsed. The other one got her job back. Republicans continue to hold 20 of the state's 28 House seats, with a similar supermajority in the state Senate. The state itself saw the highest percentage of voter turnout in more than 30 years. Republicans in general outperformed expectations in Florida. U.S. Senator Rick Scott won by the highest margin of his career, and Donald Trump took the state with a resounding 13-point victory over Vice President Kamala Harris, the largest margin in a presidential race in the state since Republican George H.W. Bush beat Democrat Michael Dukakis by more than 21% in 1988. DeSantis now has 2 more years to work with a government largely loyal to him, and a Republican president, a Republican U.S. Senate, and possibly, and I think it's going to be this way, I think it's been determined by now. Remember, this was written in early November, and possibly a Republican U.S. House. But what happens next? Can he run again? DeSantis was first elected in 2018 and began his office in January 8th, 2019. He was reelected by a landslide in 2022. He will be ineligible to run again in the next Florida gubernatorial election in 2026. Leave office in 2027.
So there's our answer, right?
Nothing about coming back?
And honestly, from what you just shared, Ross, I don't think there's a reason for him to. I think he's actively looking at. Oh, what happened?
Is DeSantis up for re-election? Could DeSantis run for Florida governor again? While DeSantis isn't up for re-election, he could someday run for governor again. The Florida Constitution says no person who has, or but for resignation would have, served as a governor or acting governor for more than 6 years in 2 consecutive terms shall be elected governor for a succeeding term. What the hell does that mean?
You lost me at the 6 years. I thought the governor term was 4 years.
Well, he was elected in 18.
Re-elected 2022, so that's 4.
Yeah.
Coming up 2026, so that's another 4.
Yeah.
So 2 terms, that's 8 years.
This is what the... Yeah, here it
Where's
is.
Where's your source here?
This is the Tallahassee Democrat still.
Oh, okay, still. Okay.
And I'll include this in the show notes. But that would not prevent DeSantis from running again after someone else has served as a term as governor, since it would not be consecutive. And that's assuming that restriction isn't changed before his time runs out. In 2023, during his administration, after heated debate over the legality of DeSantis's impending and ultimately failed presidential campaign launch, the Florida legislature rushed through a bill clarifying that Florida's resign to run law doesn't apply to anyone campaigning for president or vice president. So basically, this is the law that I knew that he had put through, so that if he runs for president and fails, like we all knew he was going to, he can come back and continue to be
governor. Yep.
DeSantis signed it into law before announcing his candidacy.
Smart.
What are the Florida governor term limits? Florida, like 22 other states, limits governors to 2 consecutive terms of 4 years. The others are Alabama and, whatever, that doesn't matter. Arkansas, California, Delaware, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri.
You said California?
We just lost DJY because it's already 12 o'clock. God. I just remember what feels like 5 minutes ago, my poor dog puking his guts out. All limit governors to no more than 2 limits to 2 terms in a lifetime. Vermont,
so that includes Florida?
No, because Florida has that caveat.
Okay, so he can serve 2 consecutive terms, but that's it. But he can always come back afterwards and run again, it sounds like.
Yeah, so that's what
well, that's helpful. Which then makes me think too, this actually is a good place for DeSantis to be in right now.
I don't want him anymore. I get Florida's a red state, but
what, you don't want him as a governor?
No.
Or just in general?
Yes. So he can come back.
I can see that. Like play it out, Ross. Like,
100% I could see that. And that's why he appoints
he has the ultimate safe spot to be in right now.
Yeah.
Because he's in his second term as governor. You listed out all these things that are in his favor as far as Florida being a heavily Republican state. He has like majority in the state house. He has that support 8 years in that sort. You got Republican House, Republican Senate in nation's capital. You did run against Trump. So people are already thinking to themselves, okay, post-Trump, he's already, since he ran for president before, he's already on the short list of people to consider for president for 2028. Like, now Rubio going for Secretary of State. He could come in as senator and then position himself to run again for president in 2028. Like, he has a number of different options. And on top of that, he's going to have something else to do anyways in 2 years. Or in 2 years, 2026. So,
well, so here's how I see that playing out.
Like, he's in a really good spot because even if he did something else, because he had 2 good years as a Florida governor, he can still come back if he wanted to as a safety choice, so to speak, and run for governor again if he so choose.
Yeah. So here's how I see that playing out, knowing him, because he has zero confidence in anything that he's going to do, like running for president. He either knows he's not going to get it and just did a Hail Mary or whatever. He appoints himself to the Senate. And I forget what the period involved in this is, but at some point And remember, he's finishing Marco Rubio's spot.
Oh, okay. So okay, now I get it. Okay,
But that's not the rest. That's not the rest. It's only for some certain amount of time, and
because it's
then there's a special election. And the
oh,
special election is only to finish the rest of the term. He's not
hmm.
elected to a fresh 6 years.
So you're in
I
there
think
for a certain period of time. Then you have to do a special election, and then if
it's
you win that
all this
election,
year.
then you go 6 years.
Yeah. And I think that's all this year.
Mm,
I think Rubio's up for re-election this year because he didn't go in 2022.
because
Scott, or no,
yes, Scott came up for vote
in
this year.
24. Yeah.
So then Rubio would have to go 2026.
Yeah. So they'll well, let me go back to that one then, because that kind of question was kind of sort of here.
Because that makes it
Actually,
interesting.
that was one of the Google searches.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta open another tab for that. There's the appoint himself senator. Well, there's a generic one. Here's the Miami Herald, Florida National News. That sounds pretty independent. Could Governor DeSantis appoint himself to the U.S. Senate if Marco Rubio becomes Trump's Secretary of State? Scrolling through lots of pictures. Here we go. Under Florida law, the governor could appoint a replacement. Hold on a second.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Thanks. The governor could appoint a replacement to serve the remainder of Rubio's term. However, for DeSantis to appoint himself, he would have to resign as governor and elevate Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez to the governorship. But isn't that in contrast to the law we just talked about?
Mm-hmm.
Should DeSantis take this route, he would be among a select group of governors who have self-appointed to the U.S. Senate, a move that has proven politically challenging historically. Governors who have self-appointed to the U.S. Senate have rarely been successful in subsequent elections. Only one governor has successfully won a late election after a self-appointment, Kentucky's Happy Chandler, who not only retained his seat in a special election, but also won re-election 2 years later. Here's a list of governors who self-appointed to the Senate and their subsequent electoral outcomes. Okay, yeah, don't care. If DeSantis chooses to appoint himself, the implications could be complex. Risk of political backlash, challenging re-election path. Well, that's what I'm trying to find out. What is that re-election path? Party and public perception. If Rubio does leave the Senate, DeSantis will likely weigh his options carefully. He could appoint a trusted ally to the Senate role, or alternatively, make the bold move of appointing himself, assuming the risks that come with such a decision. And that's it.
So what do you think could possibly take place? What would be your take? Because I have a take just from what you're saying.
I think he appoints himself.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, he always operates with a plan B and a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
We already know that he can run for re-election as governor.
Mm-hmm.
So if he just keeps resigning and comes back.
Oh, I'm so excited to tell you my take as soon as you finish.
What's to stop him from being another one of Donald Trump's dictators? Because I'll tell you that for free, my neighbors ain't smart enough to see through that. Go ahead. What do you got?
I think DeSantis is not going to appoint himself. It just seems weird. And the other part of it too, Ross, is you just ran for president against Donald. And my question is, and I guess we have to research this, if Donald wasn't on the ballot, that whole who would you vote for president back in 2024, like who would it be? Would it be DeSantis or Haley?
Like it was so long ago. But it feels that, like,
it does feel that way.
It doesn't feel like it's old news.
It does feel that way, where it's just like, okay, if Donald wasn't on the ballot, who would you vote for on the Republican side? And I think it was like either who was still around, DeSantis, Haley, Vivek, and that sort. Of those three, so to speak, and let me know if I'm missing anyone accidentally, who would most likely take on the vote? I could see it where DeSantis wants to keep his options open to run for 2028 if the VP elect doesn't want to go for it.
Yeah.
Which then begs the question, okay, the original question is what happens to Marco Rubio's seat? And here's where I got a little bit excited, because I was like, okay, where can this go? I could see something happening with somebody who recently vacated her position as the RNC chair, who is a Florida resident, to want that Senate seat.
Well, that was the other thing we didn't even really get to talk about, was the fact that Dad had already floated her name to the governor's office.
Because here's the thing. There was a lot of blowback. Walk with me here. I'll land the plane on this one. Not much of a weave here. But when Kamala lost, there's a lot of people that said, you know what? I don't think America's ready for a female president. They didn't vote for Hillary.
I was told, I have a lot of Cuban neighbors who were all Trump supporters. Bumper stickers, flags, you name it. Who flat out said they would never support a woman president at all, ever. Doesn't mean it matter if it was their wife. And that is just the Hispanic, apparently particularly Cuban, perhaps also Puerto Rican lifestyle. And the machismo that...
We could just say traditional, old-fashioned. We don't have to go that route.
But why does that have to be old-fashioned when so many other, even Hispanic countries and cultures have had female leaders?
I get it. There are people that didn't.
I think things like that.
There were people
cheapen the value of conservative values.
I get. Well, they might have a conservative value that says, like, hey, like, a man should be leading the household. A man should be leading government or business, and that's what they may have a traditional view like that. Not all conservatives may view that way, but there may be a viewpoint that way. But here's where I'm going at this, because it does get to your point. So yeah, we didn't vote for Hillary. Hillary wasn't elected. Kamala wasn't elected. When will there ever be a female president? And I remember hearing a point of view, I forgot where it was, I can't source it, that said, okay, which political party would most likely be one that's most viable or more viable to elect the first female president? And there was an argument made that it's actually not the Democrats, but it's actually from the Republicans. So I was like, that's interesting. Who would that be, and what type of timeline are we looking at?
Well, mathematically, I think the chances are better for that too, because those Cuban neighbors of mine, if they're registered Republicans already aren't going to vote for a Democrat. So if the Republican Party as a whole, Hispanic tradition be damned, nominates Nikki Haley or brings back Liz Cheney in a post-Trump era. Are they going to pick some? Are they going to pick? And you know, probably Liz Cheney is not a good example, but
of course,
two top female Republicans right now, still as influential as she almost became in convincing people to switch teams. Insert your own lesbian joke there. I know, no, that's not where I meant. But who are they going to vote for? Who are those Cuban neighbors of mine and company going to vote for? Some libtard?
No. Here's where I'm going.
Or the lesser of two evils, like so many of these presidential elections have always been.
Here's where I'm going with this.
I think that makes sense. Go ahead.
I would think the scenario if I'm at the decision table, right? Playing, you know, I love House of Cards. I love being in the room thinking about these type of chess moves politically. If I'm Trump and I look at my family and you notice the cachet that your name Trump carries now with the Republican Party, at least for the next 4 years, how do I continue this knowing that I'm not going to be able to run in 2028? Out of all the children and in-laws that you have, Ross, which one do you think probably has a better political future?
Of all the
Trump's children and in-laws.
Oh. Barron.
So that's later, but I like more near term.
Barron seems very like I saw a footage of him just 2 seconds, literally.
Mm-hmm.
He was very polite. He was very. He enunciated very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he was coming over to you to shake your hand when he was standing there with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mr. Blackett. Nice to see you again. Mr. Blackett. Nice to see you. Hey, man, great seeing you. No, it was, hello, Mr. Blackett. Nice to see you again. And he leaned forward into you and shook your hand and very proper, without, I think, being too robotic.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes that behavior is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's an 18-year-old kid, for God's sake.
He's still in college. He just started college.
Let him go play video games.
I see.
He is actually very adult-like and very, very professional. And he doesn't have the black cloud that all the other family members have for having supported their, let's call it what it is, controversial dad or father-in-law or grandfather or whoever. I mean, the other kids, that they wouldn't count, but Laura, as the head of the RNC, under rather immediate and subsequently questionable terms, like that, isn't that post usually elected by some of the higher up Democrats or Republicans?
What is
who appoints? How does the head of the RNC or the DNC get determined anyway?
Oh, I think that was a Trump directive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is that always the case? That the sitting president isn't the sitting president really in charge of the party?
Not sure.
Of the respective party?
Not sure, but I'm sure he had a sizable influence on that. If he's like, hey, if I'm going to run for president one more time, I need the right person that I can trust that's going to help deliver. And they didn't feel like Ronna McDaniel was that person.
Yeah.
But anyways, putting a bow tie on Barron real quick, and then I'll land this plane.
Go ahead.
Barron, I could definitely see as like the future face of the Trump organization. Like that driveway is lined up for him, right? Like his career, if he wants that, absolutely the face of the Trump organization. And if he wanted to do politics, of course, that's a way as well. But out of the children-in-laws of Donald Trump, when I look at it from the standpoint of who comes after Papa, I used to think it was Ivanka, but she pretty much disappeared this campaign for reasons I don't know of. And I think Donald, or how do you say DJ TJ. I think he's an interesting character, personality. I just don't think that he's one that could muster up a political future to like rise up the ranks, so to speak. Eric, he works in the Trump organization. However, his wife.
Yeah.
Here's how I play this out. Just hear me out here.
No, I think she's the brightest of the four.
Yes.
Of those four.
Yes. So
when I say four, when I say four, I mean DJ, TJ, and Eric and their spouses. We're not including Barron yet. He's got time. But Ivanka, I also agree, is out for whatever reasons. And I think there are multiple.
Yeah.
But I don't think DJ, TJ is a viable candidate because what I know about him and what rumors you already see on social media about him,
the
Republican Party will never be able to vet him as a viable candidate.
So
in the sense of responsibility and reliability, Eric is worse. He's the black sheep of the family.
So I could see it. DeSantis stays on board, probably wants to consider president, or if he exit, and that's what maybe there were talk about Secretary of Defense at one point. Who knows? But I don't think he goes for senator. I think if I'm going to place bet with, what I'm thinking, right? Back to the 312 days. You put Laura in the Senate. If she runs special election, that's going to be no contest, no problem. And then 2026, right, for the next 6 years, she can run that, get a full Senate term under her belt. 2032, I think, is interesting because I think that is one where at that point in time, I could see Laura Trump as a potential candidate for president from the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Where my move would be, if you think that the Republican Party is more likely to elect the first female president over the Democratic Party, if you believe that, you ask yourself, well, who could that possibly be in the future? I could see it that if you want to keep the Trump name going and you have somebody that clearly showed her effectiveness in running this campaign for her in-law and has that cachet about her that if she adds on a Senate run and her time in Congress as well, I could see it that she could run in 2032 or 2036 and she could possibly be the nominee and maybe even win riding the coattails of the Trump name.
And I think Senate also gives her better chances than Congress. And what I mean by that is the last time we've had a senator become president versus a congressman become president. We've had Biden, Obama, Bush, no. Clinton was governor. What was Dad before he was like CIA and all that? What was he before he was ran against when George H.W. Bush ran against Reagan in 80, the primary? What was he then?
That I don't know.
Because then before that, I mean, because Reagan was a governor, Carter was a governor,
Yep.
Ford was a senator. Nixon was a senator
Mm-hmm.
because he was a senator when he ran against Kennedy.
Okay.
Johnson, I don't know about. Kennedy was a senator. Eisenhower was a general. I think that's far back enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like Laura could essentially be, because as Barack Obama was a senator before he became president, I could see Laura Trump being the Republicans' Obama, so to speak. First time senator, and then runs for president afterwards and gets elected. And that is your first female president.
Okay, here's HW's. President Richard Nixon appointed Bush as the ambassador to the United Nations in 1971, as a chairman of the Republican National Committee in 1973. President Gerald Ford appointed him as the chief of the liaison office to the People's Republic of China in 1974 and as the director of Central Intelligence in 1976. So there's that. That had to be short-lived, though, as the CIA. Because you think Carter's going to leave him there when he wins? Well, anyway, we're getting into the weeds.
Got to pull you back up on the bomb I just dropped, sir.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it's a bomb. I think it's a logical course. I think it's a logical choice. For as much as I don't agree with things that Trump does, I think she may be the one that he's grooming as a successor. Because as much as he trying not to, I don't agree with Secret Service agents retiring or otherwise leaving the Secret Service and dishing dirt like this one guy just Gary Byrne, I think it is, just wrote a book on Hillary and just basically trashed Hillary. He gets on Fox News and says it's because I need to be able to look my child in the eye and tell them, what it was like. Well, then you do what you say you did, and you sit your child down and say, this, in my opinion, is what it was like when I protected the Clintons. You don't need to write a book about that.
Yeah, that's true.
I promise you, if I decided to write a book about all the dirt that I have on the Trumps, the Secret Service would die trying to stop me. But the Clintons, some libtards that they don't like in the first place, these people were high-fiving each other on election night in 2016 when he took the lead. That's not okay. All right. What else are you thinking? That's it. My day is coming to a rapid close if I'm going to go to this concert later.
I think I'm going to stick my flag on that one, sir. I think
I think it's a good decision.
First to the ground. I think if Trump plays his cards right, I think that Laura Trump is being groomed to potentially be the first female president of the United States from the Republican side.
And if the Trump dynasty ends with him, who are the Republicans looking at? As in non-Trump people.
So if you're not including Trump, then I think DeSantis, Vivek, Vance come up instantly. But I think once again, like, who's going to have that pull? Because you're going to have to figure out your identity post-Trump as far as what the Republican Party is going to be.
Yeah. And that's why Ramaswamy and Vance are out, because they're too close to him.
So
I mean, they're yes men to him. I don't think they are there because of like some of the folks in the first Trump 1.0 who were there to tell Trump what they thought, and who are subsequently not with them anymore. Got to give a quick shout out to some folks on Chatter. Let me see if I can pull this phone a little closer so I can read them. Ollie, King, and Suga, thanks for joining us. I invited King and Suga up the stage, but they're still in the audience. Ollie, if you want to unmute and give us your opinion quick before we leave. We haven't tested this yet.
I'm not able to right now. Shoot.
Okay.
But thank you. That's cool to know this is live.
It is. So we are not just on Chatter. We're also on, where are we at? Discord. My Discord server is also streaming the same thing. And we're also on the radio. Up until noon, we were on 99.1 WDJY in Atlanta and America One Radio, an internet station also based in Atlanta. We're on all of my social media, 2 YouTube channels, Facebook, Twitch. We're on the Yerg's Radio video player that you can just download, and anytime we go live, you just click that link and you got what we're doing. I think that's it. Yerg's Radio, of course, Rainbow Radio. You can go to yergsradio.com or rainbowradio.gay and listen to everything there. What else? To YouTube, Talk TV 24 and Up the Middle on YouTube, Up the Middle Radio Show on Facebook, Yerg's Media on Twitch, Yerg's Media on Rumble, Yerg's Media on DLive. Up the Middle Live is our player. Yerg's, oh, that's the other one. My Instagram channel, Yerg's with 2 Z's. That's all of them. I think that's everywhere we're at right now. Coming back to K-Shop. I just got to say it. That's what they use anyway. KSHP Radio in Las Vegas, starting with the new year. We are in talks with Tan Talk again, or still to continue there. And we just brought on an agent to help us grow even further. And by the way, to finish that story, actually, the growth with K-Shop, my plan was to get everybody that we bring on to cover at least one, if not both hours of the 2-hour Friday show. Because until you came along, that was where there was the most political discussion. Everything else was just me bitching for an hour. K-Shop is not able to cover our second hour because of what's already in their schedule. But they're covering the first one. And my proposal was for 2 hours on Friday. And then when we grow, the first hour that we get is Wednesday. Well, because they can't do the second hour that we're going to get with K-Shop is Wednesday. So we start here on the 8th, I believe, of January. If not on the 1st itself, then definitely on the 8th. Translating Trump will be on KSHP. I have that. 107.1 FM and 1400 AM. KSHP, Las Vegas. So you're on the radio again, my man.
All right.
And then the next expansion will go to our Monday show, where we're joined by Jane Stahl, and then eventually and ultimately to Tuesday and Thursday. And this is why we got to sell some advertising too, because the agent is getting us 5-day spots starting at 11. And he's got a couple of them that we're going to look at. That's probably going to be, if I don't have the money backing it, meaning, ad spots coming in, that's going to be a small business loan because that's not coming out of the pension. There's nothing there. I got dogs to feed because they keep puking it up.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's
I wanted to add one.
Go ahead.
I sent you a DM about the bot. Oh yeah, I don't want to say too much, but I enjoyed you guys talking about the kid.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but you sent me a DM and you enjoyed the show. Am I right?
Yes, and I talked about the kids.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, as if we're not talking about the entire Trump family every Wednesday, you can get us 5 days a week. I mean, this is a political show, so I mean, hello. 5 days a week, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific, and 4 p.m. local time in London. Fridays, we are on the UG.media. They have 2 channels on that website. The .media is an ending to websites. Mastiff.media, our own company being one of them. So go to the UG. I just learned it stands for underground. I think that's what I thought it stood for. It stands for something else. Whatever. That's what I tell people it stands for. The underground, the UG.media is a British site in London. We are the eyes and mouth of British people here in the United States for politics. And they have 2 channels. You can go to the XL every Friday at 4 p.m. local time in London to get us there. All right, man. You're stretching. My ass hurts. My leg's cramping. I got to get a better chair if I'm going to sit here all day.
Do me a favor before we go.
What up?
Float that Laura Trump for president, first female president theory to the guys on Friday. I'm curious to know their thoughts on that one.
What I will do is pull up my folder for show notes and put that right into Friday's template. And your best estimation is not 28, but 32. Is
32.
that right?
32, because because it definitely is speculation that they're going to want to nominate her for Senate. And if what you're saying is correct, if she comes in, maybe has to do a special election to get the full 6 years, that should take you to 2032. I think 2032, earliest 2038, more of a definite in case DeSantis or Vance runs in 2028.
Why not immediately succeed him in 2028?
What is she going to do between now and then?
Well, I mean, she takes the Senate job,
right,
and ditches that in favor of once she gets elected.
What happens to DeSantis and Vance?
Trump doesn't care.
I get that part, but Vance is your freaking VP. What is he going to do post?
I'll say again, Trump doesn't care. I mean, look at this.
I see 2028 as a head-to-head DeSantis and Vance dilemma to solve. And depending on how that pans out, I could see Laura Trump becoming more viable of a choice to think about. Earliest 2032, if she gets the Senate and has a whole Senate term under her belt. If she gets 2 terms under her belt, then 2038 for sure.
2028 is a bigger, more immediate. Well, obviously it's a more immediate, but a more important option, because what if DeSantis and Vance slug it out in 2028?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them actually wins. Now they're going to want to be reelected in 2032.
Right.
And
not 2038, 2036 then. Okay, I got my years wrong.
Yeah.
I hear
there. Then 2036, but their vice president is going to want to win in 2036.
By that point, I could argue, who's to say that she couldn't be seen as a possible VP
for one of those 2?
for one of those two to come 2028. So that's why it's important to get her in the Senate now.
Yeah.
So I could see it where if you say, hey, 2028, because trust and believe, we're not having this fiasco from the Democrat side as far as like who's going to be running. You're going to go through a full primary. You're going to get the best of the best candidate. We may see Gavin Newsom come out for this. They're going to come up with their best slate candidates 2028. So you might say to yourself, hey, we may need a Trump on the ticket again. And we might say, hey, Laura, what do you think about VP? Go with DeSantis, go with Vance even. So Trump Vance now switches to Vance Trump. And then what it puts you up is you're right up in line for 2036 or 2032. Who knows? But yeah, I could definitely see that. Like that's why
2036, because everything that a first term president wants is a second term.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's what makes this really interesting.
Yeah. I just think Vance has a long way to go. This time he rode an entire movement, not just Donald's coattails, but so much more than that. That got, and not just their coattails, but also I think Kamala's failures and the Democratic Party's failures is what helped them. Because when you look at the votes, the popular vote that they were so happy that they won, they didn't get any more than what they got in 2020.
Right.
They won because the Democrats lost. That's what it was. And they won, period. They won. And I do believe that just like in 2020, it was a safe and secure and fair election. But not because they were that much better. In fact, if anything good came from it, they showed stability by performing the same way they did in 2020. And that's what's going to get them in 2028. Because, who knows if the Democrats are going to show up again and which way independents are going to lean.
You got a real opportunity here.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll say it again. I voted for Republican presidents in the past. I voted for W twice. I would have been okay with Romney, although I wanted to see Obama get a second term. Well, I saw the look on that face.
No, because I just realized 2028 Rubio could very well go for it.
Yeah. He's not going to be back in the Senate. So,
he's going to serve this position as Secretary of State. Okay, where do you go from here in 2028?
Yep. That's just to keep it at least balanced. I hope the Democrats start developing a roster too.
You know my sleeper on that one, right? Watch.
No, but I'm about.
What do you got, Allie?
Sorry.
That's all right. Good.
Well, I'm curious to hear more and hear you discuss Michelle.
Michelle? Yeah.
Obama.
Although she has said she's not interested in politics anymore.
Right. I think one thing you have to think about too.
If he loses weight, because that'll show that he can actually make change and show discipline that a position like that needs, that he has already. Chris Christie. That dude was loved in New Jersey. And I get the rest of the country is not New Jersey, just like DeSantis thought that he was loved here in Florida and went with a slogan, "Make America Florida," which is a horrible idea. You know what that knucklehead did here. But who is your dark horse for the Dems?
Okay, given that I feel Obama is actually on his way out. right? Because this whole fiasco with this election, you got to basically clean house. And I think Obama.
Well, yeah, he's got too much of a rap with Biden.
I think him and Michelle, because they're one, you can't consider that anymore for the future. However, if you were to say if there was
you can consider another Trump.
No. So
I mean, Laura Trump is still an extension of Dad.
I get it, but Trump's a winner right now. Trump's a winner. He's top of mind right now. You were going to be top of mind as Trump for the next 4 years. Obama, we're not going to hear much of him for the next 4 years.
Inflation's already going up, and it ain't because of Biden.
Hey, listen, we got 4 years, sir. But here, to my point, Barack and Michelle are on their way out, along with Biden, Pelosi, all their older figures that used to be more of the patriarch of the Democrat Party. You're looking for fresh blood. There is a contingent, I would imagine, that asks for an Obama 2.0. My dark horse comes from the state of Maryland, not California. I think Governor Wes Moore, if he runs for president in 2028, he is the guy I am most nervous about at this point.
Not Gavin Newsom or Pete Buttigieg?
The knockout punch for me would be more Buttigieg. Honestly.
Buttigieg is smart, and he's cool.
Yes.
You cannot piss him off. That's not possible.
Like that, if you didn't let identity politics run the day on the Democratic side, I could see a more Buttigieg ticket, and I would be biting my nails. Newsom, same state as Kamala. I get it. He has some sort of charisma about him. If your goal is we need to take this White House back away from Trump and the Republican side and stem their momentum here from potentially running the table for the next 8, 12, 16 years, you're going to have one of those type of figures that is like Obama. And I think the closest you got is running the state of Maryland as governor right now. And I think he is essentially being groomed for 2028.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of thought, and maybe because he's a part of the Biden administration, that's a downfall. But I kind of think Pete Buttigieg is as well, or at least was. If you remember, in 2020, it was down to him. It was down to Biden, him, and Bernie, with the three left on the Democratic ticket.
And I think I told you too, like
long gone.
I think I told you too, Ross. I was the most nervous, not of Shapiro being picked as Harris's VP nominee. I was most nervous about Buttigieg.
Yeah, he would have been great.
If he ran with Harris, I think that this election would have been a lot closer.
Yeah, but you know what? You're a Republican, and I think Republicans do a better job at looking at, even though the ones that Trump brought up were ridiculous, like the trans issues. I think Republicans as voters do a better job at looking at the issues and not the drama.
Right.
And I don't think there would have been, if electing for the Democrats, if electing a woman was hard, electing a woman and a gay guy would be unheard of. And she was already being accused of being too far left, which she wasn't. The comment that she made about supporting trans people, doing this, out of the other thing, was in 2019.
When she was running for president.
And was retracted in 2020.
Because she lost and Biden took her up as VP.
Yeah. And she never fought that hard enough to say, that's old news. Get yourself relevant. And it bit her in the ass. But I don't think that I don't think that the country as a whole, Pete's got an uphill climb because of the fact that he's gay. That being said, I'll tell you my Pete story. I'm sitting in Palm Springs one day in 2020, like January, with a guy I was dating at the time. And we're talking about and I said, Mayor Pete, because I couldn't pronounce Buttigieg at the time. And my boyfriend at the time goes, "Yeah, it'll be good to have a gay guy." I'm like, "What?" He looks at me like I'm stupid, like he's going to take my gay card or something. And he goes, "You don't know he's gay?" And I felt kind of bad, not because I didn't know, but because I don't want to go saying I like Mayor Pete because he's a card carrying gay guy. I like Mayor Pete because he did a lot of really good things in South Bend, Indiana. And yeah, he stepped on some toes to do it. But I'm not electing him to be my drinking buddy. And if Donald Trump needs to smack some people around to make things happen, I would so much rather, and this was a point I've made before and was about to make, a couple of minutes ago. I would so much rather be wrong again. I was wrong about the election. I said Trump wasn't going to win, and the Senate wasn't going to go to the Dems or go to the Republicans or whatever. I would love to say, "Oh my God, this is the administration." Because if I have to say I told you so, it's not going to be pretty. And yeah, I think Pete is a possibility. I think he's got an uphill climb. I think because of his association with being too far left, Gavin Newsom would be amazing because he's adaptable. He can make the adaptations necessary to be where he's got to be. He went from the far left city, and at this time it was far left. I was in San Francisco when he was elected the mayor of San Francisco. As a liberal Democrat, he was the conservative candidate. There was no Republican. Like, they know, don't waste your time. And the other candidate was a guy named Matt Green, who fittingly was the head of the Green Party, who was, oh my God, liberal. Like, it was stupid liberal is how far he was. And the news story at the time is that if he were to have won the mayor's office, he would be in charge of the Green Party nationwide because it's the highest office that party had. But Gavin, who was liberal as mayor, realized the entire state of California is, oh, hell no, not that way. In fact, from a land mass perspective, not population, but if you go by counties and such, more than half of it is very red. You cross the Golden Gate Bridge into Marin County and continue north, you're Republican the whole way up, all the way to Oregon. And then on the East Bay, east of Oklahoma, east of Oakland, he gets very Republican. And along the Nevada border down to San Diego is very Republican. It's like San Francisco and LA are it. And everywhere in between, San Jose, I can't think of it, Monterey, that area. But that's it. And so Gavin Newsom is very capable of change. And I say that to mean become conservative or represent conservative. But he's got to get that message out first.
He's forever going to be linked to California, though.
Oh, yeah. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that,
like, there's a marketing and messaging like endeavor he's going to have to.
He's got to stop buying. He's got to stop buying $9 million houses.
That would help too.
And saying, I'm with the people.
But
really?
Yeah,
is it because you can fit all those people in your house?
Yeah,
because you can. Allie, she had said about the chat, and I'm learning these applications. I'm learning these platforms, gang, so bear with me. I did see via my phone where I can read the chat. Her questions there were Thanks for the multitasking and loving listening. And also, have Obama kids shown any interest? As far as I know about the Obama kids, they're like Chelsea. They did not have less to do with. They did not like. I won't say that they did not like. If there was anything they did not like about living in the White House, it was that they couldn't be normal kids. Like they wanted to go around and get in trouble. They did not like us following them everywhere because we prevented them from getting in trouble. And yet, on some degrees, they still managed to get in a little bit of trouble. Again, I'm not going to elaborate because I don't think that's okay. But yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean, they're both very bright. Sasha and Malia are both bright girls, but and becoming lovely ladies have already become lovely ladies and bright ladies. But I just don't see a political interest from them, not yet anyway. Maybe someday, but never say never. But they've been closer to Chelsea in that interest than closer to any of the Trump kids.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure,
for being
Allie.
attentive to the chat. And then if you check out my DM, we'll work with the Chatterbot. There's like 3 places you can mute and unmute to get rid of this echo.
Okay, cool. All right, so you're hearing an echo from us?
Oh, yes, that's great. You weren't hearing it.
No, I don't hear it because we're coming out through, I guess, another system. I hear what gets sent out. I don't hear what essentially gets heard, I guess.
Yes. Now you know why I'm
Gotcha.
pausing mid-speech.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, so you sent that to my DM, not into the room's chat, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can do a one-on-one room and
Gotcha.
chatter, and I'll help you get the bot set up so people can participate here without hearing their own echo.
Right on. But will the people participating in the chat room also be heard throughout the rest of the network?
I'm confused.
So
what you're saying.
You and I are talking, but you and I are not the only ones that are listening. My co-host is joining via Restream, and he's who's on the video. If you're seeing the video,
yes, I did see that.
And then we're going out to those social media accounts through Restream. One of our stations on Friday picks us up via Restream, and then we're also going out on internet and terrestrial radio. So if we do all these mute things that you're talking about, we're not going to cut that out to those other destinations, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're just working with doing the settings in the bot so that people don't hear an echo and they can participate.
Right on. Awesome. Well, hell yeah, I'm all for that. So I don't know if you heard earlier, but I am going to be tending to my previously sick dog who threw up literally 2 minutes before the show started. And then in about an hour, I got to go. In about 2 hours, I'm leaving to drive down to Clearwater to go to the Alan Parsons Project concert tonight. So the rest of my day is taken. But Thursday and Friday are open. We'll message each other in the direct messaging and set something up if that's cool with you.
I just want to say also, as my last comment, I hope your dog gets better.
Oh, thank you.
And by the way, I still have my sound check CD from the Alan Parsons Project.
Oh, wow.
They are audio files to the bone of them.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm a huge classic rock guy. That's the long hair in my post Secret Service days. But yeah, awesome. All right. Well, I think we lost all our radio stations because they closed at 12. But that's it for us, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. Marcella is dealing with a family situation with her parents. She's going to be caring for her mom for the next couple of weeks. So for about at least a month or two, it's just going to be me on Thursday. So it'll be political again on Thursdays with Up the Middle. I'll be back tomorrow at 11, and then all the guys will be back for, I don't know if I want to call it like lunchtime happy hour like we used to, but I mean, it's kind of like a happy hour. We just kind of sit there, drink coffee and protein shakes and whatever else. That'll be Friday. And of course, tomorrow also have a full report on tonight's concert if it's not rained out. It was raining pretty heavy earlier. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for chiming in, Allie. Appreciate your comments and all your help. And you and I will definitely talk later. Philip, pleasure as always. You can. What are we? Where are we following you on social media? I remember it was social media. It wasn't like an email or something, right?
I'd say Instagram. We ought to put our names and our handles underneath our pictures in the future. That'd be good too.
So we can. It's just me doing that right there, and it's done.
Are you able to add like another thing too, like maybe like a handle, like an Instagram handle underneath your name, or
the other thing can, like the lower third, like here, like that.
Oh,
thing.
okay, that one. Okay.
It used to only be that top line, buyblackett.com/Yergs. And then all the platforms added the sub line or the, what do they call it? The secondary. That's it. But yeah.
Maybe we could just include like your handle right next to your name. So like future episodes, you just
also
pop
do
your names.
Do an overlay. I can create something like this, like we use for. Oh, here's one. Yeah, that American flag around the border.
I like this. Why? You should keep this.
And it says Yergs.com there in the middle. I can add that because if this is how you and I are going to be, I can add to say, here in the bottom of your screen, Philip Blackett, and then at Philip Blackett or something like that, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'd like to just share my Instagram handle in that case. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But I like the flag overlay. We should keep that.
Yeah. I like that too. Oh, and it says Yergs. See, I would change that now because we're not on just Yergs Radio.
Mm-hmm.
And Yergs.com is still something we very much use, but I would probably leave that there. And because we're on Yergs Radio and Rainbow Radio and so many others, I would change that to mastiff.media.
That works.
Just because, and I'd get rid of, you can tell that when you create that, what I have to do is I go on Canva and I type that font in, and then I do where it gets rid of the background.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes all that out, but it doesn't take all of the pink. You pick a color that you're not using. So in other words, I can't put blue or obviously purple if it's something that I'm using somewhere else on the document. Mm-hmm. Like I'll get rid of that. So everything that you see on there now, get rid of that QR code. Everything that you see on the screen now, except the blue and the yellow for the Ukrainian flag that's in our background,
mm-hmm.
is from an overlay. Actually, nope. Toggle that back off. There you go. The names that were on there were not from the overlay. So everything you see now, the American flag border, the red microphone on the right side, the blue microphone on the left, the purple Yergs.com in the middle, and the purple Yergs Radio at the top, that's all on one document.
Okay.
So what I have to create is this hole that has the rest of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do that, I put this whole document over top of the entire screen is comprised of a color that we're not going to use. And so if you were to increase the size of your screen right now, you would see little pink dots around Yergs Radio and around Yergs.com.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are less precise. And actually, they're around the flag border, too. I'm seeing them there, too. When where you try to get rid of as much as possible, but you don't necessarily get rid of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I got some other programs that I can use called vectoring and stuff like that that will actually do that. But yeah, I would have to do something that would create the Yergs.com, or excuse me, the Philip Blackett IG semicolon or colon at Philip Black, whatever your handle is, so that it's in that bottom corner. That being said, if for some reason I go like that and I switch you to the other side of the screen, or we bring on something like we do a screen share where we have a document on or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
we're still going to be over here and your name's still going to be over here and my name's still going to be over there. We would have to get rid of the entire overlay because it wouldn't be matching anymore.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I can do that. I think that'll look good. And I liked that American flag. It's just that I had been very involved and interested and supportive of Ukraine in the war in Ukraine.
I get it.
And it's going to be that's going to be going by the wayside in the foreseeable future. I mean, Zelensky's already saying that he would concede land to stop the war. I'm like, dude, you already lost the Crimean Peninsula years ago. Oh, God. I hope Donnie grows a set. We'll have to talk about that next week. What you foresee happening in Ukraine. But I got to get ready. I got to do some things. I know you do too. I've taken up an extra hour of your day already. Wow. Yeah. We're running into hour number 3. Let's cut this while we both still don't hate each other. There we go. All right, man. Very cool show. Good discussion today. Thanks for backing me up and having something to talk about.
Absolutely.
Because the dog kind of, I had stuff, but I couldn't get it. At that time, when I saw him get up to go to the door, I'm like, why does he have to go out now? He's been out already. And then with a couple minutes before going live, I went to, get him to come back in here and lay down, and he was already in the middle of puking. I'm like, oh, God. So that's how my day started. All right. Hopefully we got a good concert tonight. All right, Allie, thanks for joining us. Philip, thanks for as always. I'll see you next week, and see you all tomorrow with a report from the Alan Parsons Project concert and more Up the Middle. Thanks for running with the big dogs. You've been Up the Middle. See you tomorrow.
Peace.